So the Vance noble knight family, not JD is from a different Vance end. But they screwed over King James the First. I like King James the First. I've done so much research on King James the First. Done so many videos on King James the First. He was the 6th King of Scotland, first King of England. He is responsible for the King James Bible. He's responsible for giving us a clean version of the Bible because he got rid of the popery propaganda, which is where all of this mess always goes back to, is that damn false prophet that was never the first. It can call itself the first church. It was just the Roman Empire that was falling that became the church. And then all they did all through Europe was want to get in kingships. That's all they cared about, was power. Unfortunately, that's where the Vance name comes in. And it makes sense to me, because what I've wondered is, everyone says that this line, and I know this is the line that I'm from because it goes back to North Carolina, is that they were devout Protestants. I'm like, how is that possible when all of my family was Catholic? It's the same thing that anybody who's looked into things, you know that people will easily chummy up to the leader of a country or somebody powerful, and then turn around and stab them in the back, all because they have their own ideas. So shameful. The Vance families, they were noble knights. They were also judges, lawyers, and particularly Sir Patrick Vance was a favorite of King James the First. He would have been involved in high-level correspondence with European powers. In the medieval world, an ambassador of the Lord of Sessions, which he was like a judge on the Supreme Court, from a family with 2 or 3 bishops in it, would have had a very high clearance with the Vatican diplomats. Yet the Vance family was like the backbone of the Catholic Church. I mean, I've spent most of my time on videos calling out that false church. And see, this isn't, oh, well, he just didn't know. This is deliberate pretending to be one thing and serving the Vatican. Not serving Jesus, serving the Vatican. There's a difference there. You need to pick one or the other, because God does not share the throne with anybody. And when Jesus said in his word, call no one here Father, and then everybody in the world wants to follow the false prophet and call him the Holy Father, then can you not realize you've been living under the season of the beast and everyone's been deceived? Well, Sir Patrick Vance was a pillar of the Protestant establishment. The queen he helped bring to Scotland, Anne of Denmark, eventually became the most famous secret Catholic in the kingdom. Yes, who married King James I. I think she was always Catholic. I do. And that's how he was very much getting her in the inner circle. And this created a very delicate situation for the men like Vance who served her. Her Lutheran upbringing. Anne, born in the Lutheran Church in Denmark, when she married King James VI, who was the first king of England, she was expected to transition to the Scottish Presbyterian Protestant faith. However, she found the Scottish ministers to be grim, demanding, and disrespectful to her royal status. This is exactly how somebody who was a secret Catholic would have acted. They think she converted in the 1590s. No, I think she was always a Catholic. She kept private Jesuit priests and was known to refuse Protestant communion during her coronation and other public events. The Pope was corresponding regularly, of course. Secret letters from the Vatican revealed that Pope Clement VIII sent her rosaries and letters encouraging her to remain firm in the Catholic faith. Because it was all about getting in that, especially the Britain kingship. Isn't it nice King Charles has now brought all that back to the Church of England? As a high-ranking judge and personal advisor to King James I, Sir Patrick Vance lived in a world of extreme tension regarding this. It was the job of the king's inner circle, including Vance, to protect the throne. If the public found out that the queen was Catholic, it could have started a civil war. Yeah, because King James I was an adamant Protestant. So much so that he was keeping the Vatican at bay. He knew they were trying to infiltrate into a kingship. He totally knew it. I think that's why when I read into him, I was a fan of him, because most of the kings just would let themselves be tools for the Vatican, okay? He wouldn't. In fact, he pushed them back so much on them, they tried to blow him up in Parliament. So, if the Sir Patrick Vance's own ancestors had been Catholic bishops of the highest order, while Patrick was publicly Protestant, he was like one of the few men at court who understood the old faith well enough to navigate the Queen's secret without causing a scandal. And it says King James VI, and the First of England, knew that she was leaning Catholic, and so he was willing to look the other way, but he didn't want it pushed on his kids. Well, it's because I've often wondered, when you look at after King James I died, his son took over, and he clearly, and the people caught on, like, yeah, you're claiming to be Protestant, but you're serving all the Catholic like all the loyalties to the Vatican. Like he was very subtle about it, which is why the people ended up calling William of Orange in, because William of Orange was married to one of King James I's daughters, and they knew she was Protestant, and that William the Orange was, and they got rid of him. So how would King James I's sons become Catholic when King James I was such an adamant Protestant? Because it would have been because Queen of Denmark, who he married, was always a Catholic. It's the same thing that has always been going on. When we look at Sir Patrick Vance of Barnbarrock, the question of his true faith is a classical piece of historical detective work. While he was officially and publicly a Protestant, there are several reasons why historians and genealogists look at his life and wonder about the depth of that conversion. He didn't convert, he was serving the Vatican. I don't know why these people choose to serve the Vatican rather than serve Jesus. You may think you're serving Jesus. No, you're not. No, you're not. It just shows you don't know God. Patrick came from a family that it was essentially the backbone of the Catholic Church in Galloway for 300 years. Oh, just say it isn't so. Changing from a family of Pope's men to King's men happened in a single generation. Many families in that era became church papists, people who attended Protestant services to avoid getting fines or to keep their lands, but practiced Catholicism in private. Patrick was the man who brought Anne of Denmark to Scotland. He was her close confidant. If Patrick were a hardline Protestant extremist, like the preacher John Knox, the Queen likely would have stayed far away from him. Right. She knew who he was. The fact that they remained such close friends, that Patrick was at the very least a religious moderate. No, he infiltrated, he was serving the Vatican, and it's disgraceful. It's disgraceful character. That's what I can't stand about. It's one, like I get maybe people want to worship that, but this was deliberately claiming one thing, okay, that you're a Protestant and you're fighting the good fight, when all the while my lineage was responsible for causing so much disaster in England. How is that possible? Sorry, England. Because there's no way around this. Patrick was a Supreme Court, he was Lord of Sessions, so it's equivalent to a Supreme Court, and a diplomat. He infiltrated and he screwed over King James I, a good king. Shameful.